Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. The ethical issues of AI have been in discussion since the very beginning as organizations develop their own internal ethical practices and countries continue to develop legal requirements. They really need to determine standards for the ethical use of digital and artificial intelligence. Today, we welcome Jack Berkowitz, Senior Vice President of Product Development at ADP, to discuss the ins and outs of how companies need to approach this effort. Jake, it's great to meet you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much. Really happy to be here.
And let's dive right in. Why is this such an important issue for companies?
Well, there's been an explosion of technology, obviously, over the past 20 years, explosion of data. And at the end of the day, it's an important thing about the right thing to do with the data that you get, right? So, whether it's data about people, data about other businesses, the proper use of that information, whether you're using it in terms of the financial markets, whether you're using it like we do to better our client experience, the proper application, it's vitally important.
How does ADP approach this process? What are those tough questions?
So we have a number of things, right? We look at, how our clients will benefit, but then we also look at, are there things about treating the employees of our clients as consumers? And then we start to look at, when should we use data and how should we use it? How should we protect it? As we start to decompose these questions, as we start to look at each one of our productizations or each one of our technologies, we step back and we have a structured process using an AI ethics board to actually consider the use cases and have a discussion. And it's really about that communication and that transparency, how ADP approaches these things.
And that led to your development of data ethics principles. What are those?
So we've set forth 5 key principles: things about transparency, things about data fairness, things about accuracy, things about privacy, things about accountability. We sit down and we actually have written out what these principles mean to ADP, what it means to our associates, what it means that our clients and the employees of our clients can depend on in terms of our ethical use of data.
So how does this ethics process evolve?
So it really did start with conversations, right? And so at that point, what we did is we brought together a number of experts inside the company as well as people outside, lawyers, people from the industry. And we started with conversations. We started with understanding sort of the technology landscape, data landscape, and our clients' needs. Now it's moved from conversation into actual practice. So we actively get together as a board once a month. We sit down and we review product plans, we review new project initiatives, and we have discussions about them, and we give advice back to teams that are pursuing, whatever business that they're pursuing. And then we follow up. So it's not just the idea of having the transparency and having the discussion, but also making sure that our recommendations are followed.
How can an organization that is not as far along as ADP get started in the process?
Well, just like we did, literally sitting down and having that discussion and putting out on the table those issues as to how you want to be as a business. After you've taken those steps, step back and take the step we did, write it down, and I think that step of us writing down our ethics principles actually became that guiding light for us to put this into practice. Now it's really direct on how we participate.
And we're seeing many regulatory changes around the world this year, and compliance is crucial. How do you view the relationship between compliance and with ethics?
It's a great question, right? Compliance is not ethics, right? Compliance is about laws. Ethics is about the right thing to do. Now they interplay, right? Because you don't want to violate any sort of compliance things, but at the same point, ethics is about taking you to that higher level, right? You could be compliant, but you still may not be, feeling good about what you want to achieve. And so, we look at the two in balance, but really what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we're taking the ethical approach to all of these problems.
Is there something you're seeing in ADP's data that stands out to you from an ethical standpoint?
I think there's a couple of things that we've seen that are pretty amazing. Obviously at this time of COVID, people data has never been more important. And probably the most interesting thing we're seeing is whether it's things about diversity, things about pay equity, things about just paying severance when those companies have to lay people off. We're seeing a sort of a ratchet up in ethical treatment of the employees of companies. And so we can infer that by seeing that through, the transactions and the pay and those decisions. And that's something really good at this time. And so we see that real clearly in the data, and it's a great compliment to our clients.
Jack, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks for your time.